All right, welcome back to KP Unpacked. This is my opportunity to ask KP Reddy, the CEO and founder of KP Reddy Co., and also the founder of Shadow Ventures. Hey, KP, I just read your LinkedIn post. What were you thinking when you posted that? My name is Jeff Eccles. I'm a senior advisor at KP Reddy Co., and as always, I'm joined by KP Reddy. Hi, KP.
Hey, Jeff.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year.
Um, I
What's
was
the
reading.
official date in January where you're no longer allowed to wish people Happy New Year?
I don't know. And it
I
really
think it's
doesn't
January.
matter because somebody's listening to this in August.
It's, Jan- it's January 15th, is what I understand.
Is it
January
all right?
15th at noon Eastern. You're not allowed. You're no longer allowed.
All right. Well, let's record about six more of these today
Yeah, it's like
because we got a day and a half.
white pants after Labor Day.
Yeah. Uh, I don't
I
understand
know I
any of
put
those
my
faux
white
pas.
pants away. I know I put my
Yeah.
white pants away.
Yeah. I'm usually pretty safe on the white pant front. I was reading this post, and actually, as we're recording this now, it was just yesterday that you posted this, and it's the time of year for this type of post. We talk about longevity, and I'll read the post here in a minute. But health, longevity, how do I get better in 2025? Those types of things. I thought, yeah, this feels this feels right, and it's fascinating. So I'm going to read this, and as usual, I'm going to ask you, okay, what was it that you're reading? You mentioned it here in the post, but why? What led up to this post, and why were you reading this thing? So the post goes like this. I was reading about longevity, et cetera, and ran across this. Your cells regenerate on average every 7 to 10 years. I feel like for a startup, it's probably even faster. The churning of staff as a startup organism grows includes the removal of dead cells and adding new ones. So we've got some stuff going on there, right?
Mhm.
So what were you reading about longevity? I'm curious about that
Well,
first.
well, Jeff, at our age,
God.
uh,
That's where we're going. Okay.
at our age, we're always looking to biohack and figure it out, right? Like eat more protein, take these supplements, intermittent fast, yoga, like all of it, right? Um, Manage our dopamine better, don't all the stuff. So I'm constantly reading this stuff. I've been actually really enjoying Peter Diamandis has been posting some interesting
Mm,
stuff. If you're in the podcasting world, Peter Attia wrote a great book called Outlive, and then Huberman as well in the pods. Bright has some interesting stuff. So, you reach a certain age and you start consuming all this stuff. And so I was reading something about the whole idea that we lose, like, I mean, skin cells is insane. I think it's like a million skin cells a day or something.
yeah.
It's quite disgusting.
It is. As you look around your house or your
It's
office,
like it turns out that dust on my bedside table isn't dust, it's my skin cells.
I guess maybe that explains why my house seems to get dustier.
Yeah, there you go. So, but I thought it was interesting because all the various analogies of a startup, right? People say, oh, it's a baby and you're growing it and
Mhm.
all this stuff. And so, um, so if you look at a startup as an organism of any kind that's developing from the seed, the embryo of an idea, right, and onwards, it's a constant changing, right? It's constantly changing and growing. And one of the reasons it was triggered a little bit, one of my portfolio companies, Icon, there was a press release about, oh, they laid off a bunch of people. And of course, I'm getting like these text messages from people like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Oh, I hope they turn it around. Like this doom and gloom thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, business objectives change without talking out of turn. Icon's fine, right? Like, um, but what happens is the business changes, the priorities change, the type of people the business models change, um, the 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 skills and talent, and then honestly, there's like startup fatigue. I mean, I have a founder that I coached. Many of you probably have met him because he comes around a good bit. That has a unicorn, and I remember when he started, I helped him start that company, and he had like 25 people writing code in his house, and they're writing code for like 6 months, and they were doing it nights and weekends. He wasn't even paying them.
Hmm.
It was like, hey, if we can build this thing, I'm going to raise money, and then I'll make you part of this. The interesting thing was they built it, they raised money, maybe about 10% of those people moved forward because, and then it was like probably 0% of those people existed a year later because you start to find out like, well, the people I need that can hack code together nights and weekends serve a purpose for that. They may not be the long-term disciplined product builders that you need as you scale your business, right? Writing a bunch of code without documentation, kind of just running rogue and building stuff, like that might work in the early days of a startup. But once you have customers on it, you have to start, maybe you don't care about cybersecurity at the beginning,
Hmm.
right? So, maybe you don't care about performance. Like, oh, I've got 2 users. I'm not really that worried about the performance of the code base, right? You get 200 users on a platform, and they're like, oh, price, and you start caring, right? So I think this evolution of a startup and that in code there's this term used as refactoring of code, which basically means hey, every so often you have to take your code base, go back through it and look at it and optimize it because maybe you built your code base on some stuff that it was unforeseen, so you need to go back and clean up some stuff and optimize some stuff. So there's also a refactoring of staff, and it doesn't make that person bad. It means that sometimes people get burned out. Like, hey, I mean, I have a former employee of mine. It's a fascinating story. He started as my receptionist.
Hmm.
He's now a partner at one of the big three consulting firms. And it was so funny. We're super close friends. And he was at my third startup with me. And he was like my COO. He'd gone from receptionist to COO. And we sold that business. And he looks at me, he's like, KP, I love you, man. I'll do anything for you. And that's the problem. I can no longer work for you. It is not good for my health.
Oh,
It's not good
interesting.
for
Yeah,
my well-being
good
because
for him.
I will run through a wall for you.
Good for him.
And that's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not.
He's like, I can't do this again with you. Like, I cannot do this again with you. Like, we're not going to go start something else and do all this stuff again and deal with the craziness. I was like, well, what do you want to do? And he told me, and I ended up getting him a job, you know, where something he wanted to do. Right. I wore that guy out. Like, I literally like wore him out. I look at him now on Facebook. It's like, man, he looks great. It's amazing what like less stress does for your health and well-being. It's amazing what not being around my chaos does for you. Um, so, um, so I think that happens, right? Sometimes the skills you need today are different. Sometimes you need specialization. I mean, we're going through a little bit of a transition, right? So we hired Ethan, our new podcast whiz, because you got busy. Like you couldn't do all the things involved in
Right.
putting this podcast together because it's grown. It's become popular. It's the number one podcast in AC innovation.
Do we get a medal for that?
Yeah, we do. You know,
Producer Ethan, you need to put a photograph of our
yeah,
medal
can
in
you please
in the
nobody, please do
outro.
not please do not fact check me and send me comments. um, so so it changed.
They
Like,
must have misheard that.
yeah, we need we needed different it's growing, right? We needed more help. We needed more specialized skills. We needed someone focused on this. And And like I told you, I was like, hey Jeff, like we just need to make sure that you're just like the on-air talent. Like you show up
Yeah.
and do your thing and you don't have to worry about anything else, right?
Yeah.
And so there's just the business evolves, right? The business evolves.
Right.
And so I think when you look at a startup and you think about it as an organism, you're constantly evolving. And the best founders I know are pretty relentless about this. They don't let a dead cell stick around for very long, right? There's not a lot of bureaucracy to hide behind.
Hmm.
Um, they realize like if they're scaling really fast, the VP of sales they had a year ago that was great at managing a team of 10 is no longer the person that can manage a team of 100 and do great financial forecasting and all the things that come with that or recruit people that well. Same thing with CFOs. You know, most startups do not need a CFO on day one. They need an accountant, but over time they might need a real CFO. So I think it's the organism as it grows. And the thing is, unlike maybe humans or other animals, that we grow linearly, right? We just keep getting bigger and bigger, and then we stop growing. Um, Startups go through shrinkage too, right? They'll grow
Mm.
and then they'll contract, and then they'll grow and then they'll contract. Uh, it's very common, right? Because maybe they realize like, oh, we've grown and the business we're in, the margins aren't that great. We need to pivot into a different business. eBay started off by trading Pez dispensers, was their first model. I don't think that's what they do anymore. Um,
It's not.
yeah, I haven't been on the eBay lately. But so these businesses evolve and change, and the people you need are it's just a different, it's a different business. And so I really, when it comes to founders, I don't think they should constantly wake up every morning going, "Hey, this is the team I have, and this is what it is." They should be constantly reevaluating their team. They should be constantly evaluating things and making changes as needed because it's an organism. And and many times the company that started out was where it ends up. Who knows, right?
Right. Right. And it's even in a traditional AEC firm,
Mhm.
especially larger firms. I remember when I graduated and went to work in an AE firm in Chicago, we had a particular specialty, which meant that we were working on a certain phase of a certain uh, prominent facility in the city of Chicago once every couple of years, 2 or 3 years, something like that. And we would staff up and staff down. Right, there would be a dedicated team to that next expansion, and then they would go away. And it was, part of it was skill set, part of it was bodies, and um, this shouldn't be that hard, I don't think, for people to grasp. It happens all over the place.
Hmm. No, so I think that's one of those things. So I think at startups really, um, and I hate to use the term ruthless. I would say just more relentless is probably the right word
Mhm, sure.
because these are people and all that. But I think you see it a lot. You see it. Same person that's doing sales is also doing marketing.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's also a point where um, I say this all the time, like, hey, we're not trying to deliver a world-class podcast or a world-class event necessarily, award-winning events per se, But guess what? Now I'm like, no, we need to deliver award-winning podcast. We need like the objectives change over time as you get better. And sometimes the team you have can deliver that better. And sometimes the team is just really good at delivering the 80% solution, right? And the
Mhm.
80% solution goes a long way in startup world.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, for those of you that
mhm.
want to Google it.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. So if you've just joined us, I don't know how. I say that all the time. I don't know how you jump in at this point in the in the conversation, but right now KP and I are unpacking one of his LinkedIn posts from I guess it would be January 12th, 2025, as you're listening to this in August or September. Um, We do this once a week. If you're not following KP on LinkedIn, you should be. Just look up KP Reddy, Reddy on LinkedIn. He posts once, twice, three times the latest on LinkedIn. Uh, and sometimes he stirs the pot. All the time he shares good insights from the AEC world, things that affect the built environment. So you should definitely be following him. And we come here once a week to unpack one of those posts. The post that we're talking about right now goes like this. I was reading about longevity, etc., and ran across this. Your cells regenerate on average every 7 to 10 years. I feel like for a startup, it's probably even faster. The churning of staff as the startup organism grows includes the removal of dead cells and adding new ones. So KP, thanks for sharing the insights around this, and also the resources, the sources for the information on longevity. You can go back to the beginning of the episode, and maybe producer Ethan can drop in some links in the show notes as well. But there's lots of good stuff there, not only for human biohacking, but also the realities of startup and other types of businesses. So thanks for the insights on this.
All
And
right.
I'll see you again next week. And for everybody that's out there, thank you for listening. One thing we didn't talk about today that we probably should have touched on is the fact that, speaking of startups, we will be in Phoenix on February 25th for our next one-day mastermind event. Many of our current mastermind members will be there. A lot of those folks are the innovation leaders, the directors of innovation, chief innovation officers, CTOs, CIOs. We also have construction technology leaders there. We'll have some founders there. We'll have some VCs there, probably some sustainability folks there as well. And we'll dig into the topics that matter in terms of innovation in the built environment. So you can get exposed to conversations like this, where we're going to dig into real world situations around the future of AEC business and innovation in AEC. So if you want to know more about that, go to kpready.co/events. And I believe it's the first event at the top of the page on at that URL. So check it out. Apply to join us there. We'll see you in Phoenix. We'll be back here next week for the next episode of KP Unpacked. Thanks, KP.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jeff.
everybody. See you next week.